Welcome to another episode of 507 Garage. In this episode, I'm going to go over the ECU options that I am going to be using for my projects, more particularly the all-wheel drive twin charge wagon. So let's get into it. If you guys are familiar with my 2021 SEMA vehicle, my race car GS300 was built back in 2021. When I got the vehicle back in July of 2024, and I started to piece together what was needed for the car to run. One of the main pieces was the control unit for the gearbox. The one I was going to be running and the one that I had purchased back in 2021 was a product by HTG Tuning, which most people have known or heard about, which is the GCU gearbox control unit that they made from HTG Tuning. To make this system work on your DCT, you have to take the motherboard or mechatronics and rewire it to work for the HTG unit. But around early January 2024, there was an issue with the firmware that had been either deleted or had been lost from HTG, where would allow for folks to download the firmware, install it on their unit, and be able to then start configuring their gearbox so they could use it on their vehicle. So the problem with that was that now that firmware was gone and folks couldn't actually get the work done and get their cars running or their projects going. This is the harness that at the time I got from DamiWorks to use for this ECU unit, which would allow me to control the transmission, connect it to the ECU, as well as be able to connect it to my steering wheel so I could actually control shift up and down and things like that with the transmission. So as I looked into that, I was trying to get the car ready and running for an event in Minnesota, a local event called Tuner Evo here in Minnesota. And as I got closer and closer, I realized that the firmware was not going to be put in place on their site in time for me to be able to get the car running. So I had to start looking at other options. If you have looked at my past videos, I have indicated on those past videos that I was going to be running a Link ECU on my twin charge all-wheel drive wagon, and that I was going to be running a CAN TCU to control the gearbox. One of the nice things about the CAN TCU, which a social media friend, the fellow by the name of Durham, who also introduced me to a option that would work for my build even better regarding power steering pumps, had also indicated to me that for his 2JZ GTE Aristo, he's running a Volvo power steering pump, and he had created a bracket for it just because it was just a little more effective in what he needed. So I decided to go that route on the station wagon just because I needed all the space I needed available to be able to have the turbo manifolds, turbo wastegates, and all of that. So by removing the power steering pump from the engine configuration, as well as the oil filter location, and moving it elsewhere, I was going to be able to give myself more room in the engine bay. And while talking to him, he is the one that indicated to me that he was running CAN TCU at one point, and then that he upgraded to a different ECU. So I had purchased the CAN ECU DamiWorks harness, which you see here. I haven't taken it out of the bag, but here you have everything you need. There's some connections to be able to connect to the engine, as well as some other things that I need for the transmission, as well as the steering wheel for paddle shift control and things like that. And then this is what the CAN TCU unit looks like. Very simple, slightly more lightweight than the HTG product. But what I like is that not only does it control DCT and 8 HP transmissions, and that you can use multiple different shifters, is that it also controls the transfer cases. I am using a DamiWorks DCT to transfer case adapter, which works with a ATC 300 model adapter. I think they also make it, or it works with the ATC 400 model transfer case. And that is what I was going to use for the station wagon. What I was going to use for ECU, I was going to use a Link ECU, which is used highly or heavily in Australia and New Zealand on UZ engines, just because it's just like the go-to ECU. So I was going to run that using a panic-made engine harness and an ECU from Link to be able to control the transmission. And I was just going to run the CAN TCU setup to control the transmission and the transfer case. So that was going to be my system or my setup. With the issues that I had regarding HTG, which is the transmission control unit I was going to use on the race car, I decided I was going to just take the CAN TCU system and running on the race car. That would take care of one of my three problems. Problem one was which transmission control unit I was going to run, and that would take care of that. Problem two is that I needed new mechatronics because the other one was rewired for the HTG, and for that I need to buy another transmission, take the mechatronics from that and drop it in the transmission that I already have in the race car. Why would I do that? Well, the transmission that's on the race car has SSP clutches, which increase my torque capabilities to support for the 2J. So I don't want to have to like swap those clutches. So it'll be easier to swap the mechatronics between the two transmissions. I still need to take the transmission off, or disconnect it from the transmission, from the engine, to be able to get to it, as well as wire everything up. So I have to get all that done on the race car just to be able to then make it work and power it up, so I can actually control the transmission and get the car up and running. So that's going to be a lot of some of the videos that are going to come up, is to get that car running finally. The other thing is, the third problem is just taking everything apart to be able to get that running. One of the things I want to do is kind of have like an access port to where the mechatronics connects on the race car, so I can actually get in there as many times as I need to if I ever need to make an adjustment or modification. But that's race car stuff. So at least now you know that that is the route the race car is taking, and it's basically stealing the CAN TCU setup that I had. For panic made, you normally have to get under a wait list. So I had gone under a wait list for that. I'm not sure if I'm going to stay or if I'm just still going to get a harness or not from them, because the ECU that I decided to go with was the Max ECU. So that contact friend from social media, Yoram, he told me about the Max ECU. It's a unit that basically controls the engine and the transmission, DCT or 8HP in this case. And this is what the Max ECU race model looks like. I got their Loom 1 and Loom 2, which you see right over here, as well as their DCT harness. So with all of this, all I need to do is just basically terminate everything I need that is going to go on the twin charge 3UZ engine, and I should be all good to go. And again, this is one unit. I can still use the integrated fuse box that's on the GS to be able to power and work with everything. The difference between this ECU and the Haltech R5, which is what's on the race car, is that it's a PDM ECU, which has a power distribution module, controls all the power and everything for the car, in comparison to this ECU. This ECU doesn't do that. The R3 and the R5 are basically that. If you wanted to include a PDM or add a PDM to your Max ECU, Max ECU sells a PDM 20. I believe it just has 20 inputs that you can run on there for power and things like that. And you can use that. They also sell like a 2JZ or LS harness, terminated harnesses that comes, I believe, with a fuse and relay box if you wanted to do that, which is another option for folks. But if you just wanted to add a PDM to your Max ECU and you added Loom 1, Loom 2, DCT harness, EGT sensor, which are about $100 each sensor, you would still be at a cheaper cost doing the Max ECU route than going a Haltech R3 or R5. And the other thing that I'm really happy about with the Max ECU is that I wanted to control or keep track of the exhaust gas temps on the engine. and the Max ECU has that integration natively already in the ECU in comparison to Haltech R5 and R3. You have to purchase the additional module to do that, which is something that I have on the race car, and I really hate the additional modules. It just makes things more complex. So I like that it's all in there. On the race car, I have tire pressure monitoring system, which is an additional module. I don't really have that with the Max ECU, but it's something that I can add in another way. I think there's other small sensors that you can run just to control your tire pressure monitoring system. So it's not a big deal to me to have that integrated or be part of the ECU. So for those that are looking at options for, if you're looking to control your engine and transmission, DCT or 8HP, and you haven't purchased an ECU, I recommend going the Max ECU route. The difference in regards of a Max ECU race between a Haltech R3 or Haltech R5, or even a Link or ECU Master, or even AEM Infinities, for example, is going to be inputs and capabilities. For the inputs and capabilities that the Max ECU has that I'm looking for, it fits the bill. The Max ECU race has everything that I'm looking for, so it fits right where I need it to be. For other folks, it may not have everything. You may have to either go to a pro or go a different route. But if you're looking for one ECU that can control your DCT and 8HP transmission, and also from what I'm being told, transfer case, which is, I would say, TBD, because once I start embarking into that and configuring it, I will know more on what needs to happen. But I believe it's all through CAN bus communication. And also you'll need something to control your engine. The Max ECU should be able to do everything that you need. And it's for Loom 1 and Loom 2 in the Max ECU race model, you're under $1,600. I purchased mine through Seems Legit Garage, as well as their DCT harness, which is about $350 or so. This is before tax and all of that, but it's still more cost effective in my mind than going with like a separate ECU and then a separate control unit for your gearbox, because they are about $1,200 to maybe $1,600 just to get a canned ECU possibly, or turbolamic. So if you calculate the price of your ECU and the control unit, you're already spending more than a Max ECU would cost you to get those two capabilities, which will be control your engine and your transmission. So for those that haven't made the purchase, I suggest, if you like, look at the inputs and options that come with the Max ECU race, or even a Pro if you need more inputs and features. I would say go with that route and take a look. And if you already have an ECU that's already running in your car and you're just upgrading your transmission to a DCT or 8HP, and you don't want to have to rewire the mechatronics, I would say go with the canned ECU, just because you don't have to mess with that at all. If you want more features and more capabilities, then I would say then go the turbolamic way. But for me, the options that I have available and the ones I've chosen work for what I'm looking for. So that's pretty much my video, just kind of a recap or overview of what I'm going to be doing and what you're going to be seeing on the upcoming videos. So if you have any comments, suggestions, or anything, just please comment below, and like and subscribe as always. I appreciate the support of everybody that has continued to stay loyal and supported the channel. We're really close to 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. We're close to 9,000 subscribers on the Facebook channel, and I appreciate that very much. So I would end the video for now, and just stay tuned for the remaining videos that are coming up. Between wiring, ECU, and all of that, I also will be making videos in regards of building the 3UZ engine and all the parts that are going to go into it. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and stay tuned until the next video. Thank you very much. See ya.